The first moments of Path of Exile are familiar ones. Within seconds of waking on a lonely beach, you're fending off the lurching undead. It all starts with the clicking, as it so often does in action role-playing games. The similarities to the Diablo series, and to Diablo 2 in particular, are immediately apparent, but the awesome Path of Exile is not a mere retread. It uses the initial familiarity to instill comfort before introducing you to its complex mechanics, squalid dungeons, and wandering phantasms that give the game its unique identity. After you reach the first sign of civilization, quest givers send you into the wilds, where you slaughter goatmen and cannibals as one of several classes. The action leads you across 3 increasingly large and intriguing acts. The standard Hellions that populate the world's sandy beaches give way to religious temples swarming with floating banners that strike you with bolts of electricity. Path of Exile masterfully builds its world without spending unnecessary time on narrative exposition. You leave behind the unremarkable forests in favor of intricate hedge mazes and ramshackle city ruins, and as the world deepens, so too does your investment in it. The wildness of the world is amplified by mechanics that alter typical role-playing elements in intelligent ways. You don't collect piles of gold here. Instead, you barter with merchants, and indeed with other players. Scrolls of wisdom, which you use to identify equipment, form the basis of the economy, though players and merchants may require you to give up valuable whetstones if you want, say, an orb that improves a health flask. Health itself is a precious commodity that you cannot just purchase from a wandering salesman. Instead, you equip health and mana flasks that fill as you murder your attackers, and you can modify those flasks to provide additional temporary effects. Path of Exile provides an astounding number of ways to customize your abilities, starting with skill gems. Your active abilities are not determined by a table of talents, but by jewels you insert into slots on your equipment. Both gems and slots are color-coded, and you may only insert a gem into a matching slot. You earn some gems by completing quests, but others appear as loot after a particularly energetic battle, and the game doesn't restrict your choices based on your chosen class. Path of Exile offers an incredible amount of skill flexibility, and showers you with a bounty of treasure.
Too much clutter.
The wonderful abundance of loot that drops as you slash through a mass of cobras is continuously useful, in part because its value does not rest on core attributes alone. You must also consider the number of gem slots armor contains, as well as the colors of those slots. The higher you level, the more gems you collect, and the harder the choices that you must make become. One of the earliest gems I found allowed me to resuscitate corpses as shambling zombies. Soon I was summoning skeletons from thin air and resurrecting fallen creatures as phantoms. Ultimately, I was leading around a 15-member undead entourage, watching my minions tear living statues to pieces. I was compelled to push onward at every step, anxious to find an array of gems and armor that fully supported the witch of my dark fantasy dreams. You should approach Path of Exile's extraordinary passive skill tree with thoughtful care. This massive web of augmentations is a shock the first time you open it. The sheer array of possibilities is staggering at first glance. If you get too experimental with this tree, you could ruin your character, wasting points on skills that actually diminish your effectiveness. But you can avoid such a scenario with a little common sense. And by the time you reach vital branches in the passive skill tree, you should already have an idea of where your path might lead. Bloodthirsty combat forms Path of Exile's foundation, and the moment-to-moment thrills are inescapable, especially if you invite other players to the battleground. It's easy to join up to 5 others, and marching forward with a full party is a visual treat. Electrified golems emit crackling orbs in all directions as your friends sling arrows and knives into their petrified flesh. Some boss fights are pushovers if you invite a few powerful friends along, though the game's numerous leagues modify difficulty and add competitive elements in ways that keep you returning long after you've seen all 3 acts.
Enough of this!
Considering that Path of Exile costs you nothing beyond some internet bandwidth, unless you purchase an unnecessary cosmetic enhancement, it provides an embarrassment of pleasures. My witch is only one of many wayfarers I intend to guide through the world of Wraeclast. Many mysteries still await me, even in the savage regions I've already crossed.